Nice.
Yes, they are.
Good morning, welcome to another episode of Daniel Plastering and Rendering. A new job today, which is nice, always exciting. We are hacking off and removing all of this. Nice. Getting the sheets ready. Okay. So there's this is actually the better one, but you can see there's some cracks there, and again they've taken the render straight to the floor and it's completely bridged the damp course, although it's not so bad there. This is a little worse on this one, and then this side here, this entire flank, and it's a bit difficult to see. This is a very old building. In fact, you can see we actually did that one a couple of months ago. So this one now wants hacking off and removing back to brick and re-rendering. So some closer up bits here. Hear that? That is not what you want. What you want is that's solid, that's good. That is not a noise you want to hear when you render. See cracks. My favourite tool. Had a cracking start here. See all this, it's been removed, a little bit more there. It's taken a little bit off here, there's going to be some dubbing out there, that's all good. Some of this just literally fell off the wall. This is an interesting bead here. Not seen one of those, it looks plastic, but it's actually metal. Oh, that's nice, that's interesting. I've not seen one of those before. It's nice to come across beads I've not seen. If you have seen one of these, let me know. It's starting to rust a little bit, yeah. At a glance, it looks like a PVC one, but it's not. It's a metal one. Looks like quite a nice bead. So we've hacked off to the door there. Then we've come round. Let's crack on. Get this all tight. When hacking off, I've gone over this a few times, but always start at the top and work your way down. That way you've got the weight of this. So this is about 7 kilograms. So if you're constantly trying to go up, it wears you down a bit quicker. Whereas if you can start at the top and then you can use the weight of the drill and gravity to help you work your way down the wall. So I like to work methodically, start in a corner, top strip, down, down, much easier. powering through here. It has been a lot of mixed match materials patched up over the years. This building originally is over 100 years old. I'm pretty sure a lot of these houses on this street are quite old. And it's been patched up over the years. It's had a new patio down, everything's been raised, so basically the damp course has been breached was one issue. There's also cracks and different patchworks going on which is causing damp in the house. So rather than go over what's there, which you can do and mechanically fix the render to the wall, that wouldn't solve the issue in this instance, because the render is causing the problem, or certainly contributing, allowing water to climb up through the render and bridging damp course levels. So we're going to remove it all back, and this is going to have lovely lime render on this one with added reinforcement mesh.
Good morning, world.
Welcome to an episode of Daniel Lee Plastering and Rendering, and welcome to new and improved audio. You'll never guess where my secret, subtle, discreet microphone is. It looks like a nice little pretty flower. But as we do work outside, this beautiful little fluffy white thing, which probably won't be lovely and white for long.
I'm sure the audio quality sounds great when you're touching it as well.
Let's see how it goes. So we are continuing removing all this render. Because we're not doing the entire house, we're just doing, this is the north facing wall. We're going to angle grind line down there so that we don't end up taking all the render off, and then that corner there is actually quite exposed, so we will be wrapping around a good 6 inches, cutting a line on the other side, putting a fresh bead on there to protect that corner, and then let's get the rest of this off. So you can see we've got a nice line down there. There's, if you see around here, this is all good condition, very sheltered, very protected wall. So this doesn't get much damage at all. So this is in pretty decent condition all there. There's nothing wrong with this corner here. This is the wall that gets exposed. So we cut a line there so that we don't accidentally start hacking away all the way down to there. And then over this side gets a bit more exposure, especially on this corner. So you can see here. Oh, Ethan. Health and safety. We want to be very careful. Just about to remove this bit of rubble.
Oh, we're going to remove that.
Only just this bit. You can actually see the wood. Again, very old property, but we will be sorting all of that. That will be all completely sealed before we then apply the render to make sure nothing from the inside, so at least the wood. See the wood there is all exposed, so to make sure that that wood is at least from the damp. Back on. So now we've got that nice cut line all the way down. When we remove this render up to the edge, we'll have a lovely join when we connect the new render to the existing, and we'll do the same on the other side. That's the rendering hacked off. That is tough old work, I'll give you that. So be warned, but yeah, it's looking good. You can see Ethan's just sweeping off the scaffold now. It's just a couple little areas, there's a small area there we need to just remove, but we'll keep the scaffolding nice and clean as we go. So we'll sweep all that down to the next level, sweep all that down to the next level, and then we will remove all this rubble. And obviously we take away all our rubbish as well, so we will be removing all our rubbish. When we come to render this, we will actually put more polythene and extra protection to make sure as well. but anything that comes over there we will clean. Now that all the render, we are going to fill any really deep holes, like the windows that I mentioned before. You don't really want lime render pugging that gap because lime render is breathable and the moisture will just go into the wood. So this is where we use our trusty expanding foam. So I like the roof and insulation one. It is more expensive than your standard insulation expanding foam because it's better. It's waterproof, it has a higher thermal value. It's a proper one for areas. Other foam, you know, don't do the job probably. And I know other builders use standard foam. It seems to work fine. But given that they have a particular one specifically for roofs and insulation, it seems foolhardy not to use it. So you see there's some very large gaps under there. So put some foam in there too. You see I've got foam all in there. That's filled that beautifully. Once that's gone hard, it'll expand a bit. We'll trim it back flush to the brick. That will continue to expand for 15 minutes or so, and then another couple hours to harden, but basically we'll leave that till tomorrow now, and then we'll trim it back. The excess, make a nice little pile there. Alright, look at that. Got a whole load in there, so when we're doing render, it's not a decision you want to take lightly. We've got the waste is horrific. Well, it's a lot, depending on what you do, of course. It's messy. Don't kid yourself, it's hard work. We are just about done. We're just tidying up down there. You see, it's not a decision. You can see absolutely caked. It is messy. It is incredibly physical. Arguably, when you're doing masses of this, it's probably one of the toughest things you might do as a renderer or plasterer. Hack this off, most physically demanding in any case. And it is no joke when you've got an area like this. So do allow plenty of time. I remember I used to go on approximately 10 square meters a day, depending on the area. One man, 10 square meters a day of render removed. And it doesn't sound like a lot, but if you hit a rough bit, as Ethan can vouch, how are you feeling, Ethan?
Fantastic.
And this particular job, it's have room. It's quite close to the centre, town centre, so there's no skip and no room for skip, which is absolutely fine. We do that sometimes, but it does mean it all needs to be bagged and loaded into my lovely van. I'm pretty much at capacity there, so I'll stop there. What I normally like to do is take it all home each day in stages. I'm lucky enough to have a driveway, so sometimes I'll pop it on there, much to my wife's disapproval. But yeah, that works quite well. Sometimes we'll do that. But that'll do for today. Just cleaning yourself off there, Eve.
Yeah, very dusty work today.
It is seriously dusty. And once Eve has locked the gate for safety.
Yes.
Good morning. Welcome to another episode of Daniel Lee Plastering and Rendering. Hopefully I'll try and keep the audio. The audio does this pretty flower. It does keep disconnecting for some reason. I'll try and keep an eye on it. Say good morning, Eve. Happy? We're just setting up. Again, we're on quite a busy road, so I'm having to jump in and out of the van to avoid traffic. So we've gotten all the beads on. We did them yesterday. I like to get the beads on the day before if possible. You can do them the same day, and if you're on a smaller job, absolutely, sometimes you have to. You'll do the beads and then render. But this is a decent chunk, so there's plenty. You can easily spend a day getting these beads lovely. What I like to use as well is Solvall's Fix All High Tack. You can also use, so if I was doing it the same day, I would use this version, but the turbo. They do a turbo version that goes hard after about 15 minutes, and you can apply render easily half an hour after putting them on. Chris, well done. He's done a great job. Say hello, Chris.
Hello, Chris.
Very nice. And then where the damp course is, as always, we've got a full bead. So the great thing about this, not only is it a strong glue, but it's also a sealer. So you can use this as a sealer. And what we've done, got a full strip of sealant all along where the damp course is. So we're extending that damp course, so there is no break whatsoever. We will also use waterproof render below and then lime render above. So when you've got two different substrates, so you can see the original extension, the new extension, there's even the existing render in the middle here. This is a really high risk of cracking. A way to minimize the risk significantly is to glue an expansion bead on. Now you also have an expansion joint. There's also, I think it looks like, which I didn't spot the first time round, they extended to here, and then at a later date have extended again to here. So you've actually got another break here that you can see. So this is also a very high risk of. So again, minimize it by putting an expansion joint on. It's normally, I believe, about every 16 square meters. Typically you want some sort of break in the render if possible to reduce your risks of cracking. So we will put this over here. This is a bit unusual to have two expansion beads together on this wall, but it will massively reduce the chances of cracking in this area. On the other side of the wall as well, there is a matching one that we will also do. Basically, an expansion joint allows for movement, for a bit of expansion, as it says in the name. So as things expand and contract, the wall doesn't crack. The expansion joint it allows the area to have a bit of movement, which is why we're going to put them in. Okay, so I use this. Oops, that's annoying. Help me.
I found it.
Well done. Oh, what's the woo? Wobble, wobble. Lovely. Okay. Sold all. At the end, if I like a nice big end, because we use quite a lot of this stuff, so none of these teeny little holes. Right, for the amount of sealing we do, I like, this is just the Ryobi sealant gun. Not perhaps a well-known heavy-duty brand, but actually I find for certain products they're brilliant. And then, nice fit. You can do clumps, you can do a full bead, depending on how it is. And then follow the line. The expansion bead there, just line it up roughly. And now, because this brickwork's a bit wobbly, I can already tell it's not gripped in certain parts. So put a bit more where it's needed. stick. I am quite generous with this stuff because I want to make sure it sticks, doesn't move. So you can use, so pink grip is another one that I was talking about earlier. It's okay, I used to use it. The issue I had with it is if there was damp in the wall, or if any moisture got into the pink grip, it would absorb that moisture and bleed through the render. Whereas this particular stuff is completely waterproof. Once pink grip's dried, it's completely waterproof too. It can be used outside, don't get me wrong, pink grip's fine. But the issue I had is it couldn't be used in quite as many conditions. You can use this stuff in the wet. So even if you're dealing with a wet wall, this stuff will stick and dry beautifully. I just want to get it level. That way, just double check. I also find the more dabs, the easier it is to get level. This wall's a little bit off level. Let's come out a bit there at the top and in a bit at the bottom. I do normally wear gloves as well, because this stuff is horribly sticky. But again, if you've got grime wipes, I've got a stash of grime wipes on hand. They wipe this stuff off beautifully. That's pretty good there. Let's come out a bit at the top. Much better there. Wonderful. Now, another great tip when fixing your beads, because it can be tricky to get them just right, especially the corners. Once you've got your beads in place, they sometimes, this is quite good because this is a finished one, there's a bit of wiggle, there can be a bit of wiggle room around here, just a little. I find just a drop of mitre glue, lining it up in position, and a quick spray with its accelerator, just on the tip, you'll see there's just a tiny dot of glue, and that just allows it to stay in place until it's all been fully rendered, and then the render will hold it in place. But just for now, and then that allows you a near as we can get perfect finish on the beads there. Because what can happen, with the best will in the world, you dab these up and sometimes they can wiggle a little bit at these edges or be a little bit flappy. So over the decades, that's the best method I've personally found. Happy to hear better ones if you've got them. Always love to learn new things. Let me know. So this is another lovely example of where you want an expansion joint. It's irrelevant of whether it's more or less than 15, 16 square metres. I think it's 16 square metres-ish, something like that. The fact is, you've got two different materials that are going to contract, heat up differently, and that's going to cause potential movement. So an expansion joint is just covering your bases, really. You've got one in there. render does crack for here and there. It's unavoidable in the grand scheme of things. But what you certainly can do is minimise it, and that is one way to minimise the cracks.
How do I screw it on? Lefty loose is this way. I think I'm screwing it off now.
I suspect you are.
Oh,
Right.
yeah, screw it off.
Let's get a nice measure the length. 215. Get your tin snips. You can also get expansion joints in all different sizes, from 3mm that I've seen, basically as thick as you like. I think these ones are the 12, 14mm ones, I think, because lime render's quite thick. So also one of lime render's features, a part of it is the thickness. So you do not want 3mm of lime render, because that's not enough lime render to protect the wall. Unlike thin coat render system, for example. And then I like to always point. Okay. Now, I want this to sit flush to my drip bead, so I'm cutting back this section here, just the first 4 or 5 centimeters, so that when I put it on, it goes over the top, sits over the top of this, and has room to sit flush to that drip bead there. In this instance, this is all going to be squared off, and that sits nicely there. And dabs. Now, to do this right, you will tear through your tubs, your tubes. Got another one here already. Don't necessarily have to do this much, but I like to do a dab every 8 or 10 inches, something like that. Press that on. Just loosely press it on to start with. Then, if I was organised, grab my spirit level, which is just around here, and just roughly check where it wants to be, which is about there. And now just make sure the dabs are on, because this wall is quite damaged, so you might find you need quite thick dabs. Not too bad there. Just want to make sure this grip's nice. Quite a large hole here. I'm using a bit more PV there. So make sure that's level there. This way as well. It's pretty good there. happy with that. Also, if your beads are slightly bent or damaged, which can happen sometimes in transportation or storage even, having these extra dabs can really help straighten them out. If your beads are beautiful, sharp, crisp, flat, lovely, you've stored them well, you can get away with far less dabs. If there's an incentive to look after your beads. Now that's where it wants to be. I'm going to come down the detail work that makes the difference. Right here, see this bit of plastic's a bit flappy. Maybe just a tiny, you don't need a lot. A little bit of glue there. A quick spray. That will just hold that in place right there, nice and flush. Easy peasy. Nice. Just to show you that bit there. You can see where I've cut away and then nice and flush.
Bees, since I'm working on top of a beehive, this is dangerous territory. I will smite thee down. You shall not threaten my plastering.
We do like to enjoy ourselves at work, don't we?
Yeah, I'm ready to work when you are. Yeah, let's get this job done.
I like to get the mesh mostly cut beforehand. I'm almost at the end of this roll. And I like to use scissors. You can use a Stanley. I find sometimes Stanleys they can fray the edges, which can be a bit of a pain. If you've got a nice sharp one, you're probably not going to have a problem. But yeah, Stanley knife works well. Scissors are my favourite. Scissors are the best. Nice sharp, just keep them sharp, keep them nice and clean and sharp. And then I will get them mostly like cut to size. They might need trimming a touch, but save you a lot of time, because once you start rendering, once it starts spraying on the wall, especially with line render over this stuff, it will suck in fairly quick. So you do want to get over it fairly sharpish. So you don't want to be faffing over too long about the mesh. I'm almost out of here. I've got a full leather bead. It's actually all the same height, which is nice. And that is too short. You can join it, but there's no need in this instance because I've got lots of other places I can use that, so I'll use that in other areas. And I will open up the new roll. Yeah, look at that. Super unimpressed with that. That is the new speaker I got. It's not a cheap one either. And this is the transmitter. And it just fell, it wasn't even that big a fall, and just popped straight off. And I personally do not know how to fix that. Very disappointing. A day old. Okay, back on bad audio, I'm afraid, but we are now hosing all the wall down. We are ready to go. Ethan's about to get a 5-bag mix on. Chris is giving this all a good soak. It's already been dusted, brushed for any loose debris. Now we give it a nice soak, as this is quite porous and it will suck in. Hello, welcome to another episode of Daniel Lee Plastering and Rendering, and new improved audio today, so I hope it works. And the weather, even though we had thunderstorms yesterday and were rained off, the sunshine came out, was beautiful, and then about 4 AM heavens opened up again and soaked everything, despite it all survived. Can't really see down there. So today we're going to get this top section done. Hopefully we've got the time and the weather. It's forecast some rain, but I'm going to show you this installation that I did a couple of days ago. The easiest way I've found, and there's many ways you can do this, but to chop it back, because you see it at some points it sticks out quite proud of the brick there. So I like to use an old trowel, an old rendering trowel, and I will just use roughly the edge of the brick, take the corner, because even though it's old it's still sharp, and I will just whip it out. This wall has just had another, even though we've had lots of rain, it has had another soak, a good thorough soaking of the hose. Don't do this with your good trowel. Any experienced plasterer would have your head if you grabbed their best trowel and did this. But if you're anything like me, you don't like to throw away old trowels, so you will have an old trowel that you can use. I would have liked to use my spray pump, but it's being serviced, it's in for repairs. So we're going to do it by hand, which is fine. It's just... Right, well that's all cut back. The weather is a bit dodgy today. It's a bit unpredictable. It's a bit all over the place. And then, being in England, over the years of rendering outside, I basically, regardless of what the weather says, just turn up. And I like to see with my own eyes because it changes so quickly and rapidly that you never quite know. Can never be sure that it's accurate.
This morning it's had no rain.
Yep. I had a quick peek last night and there was zero rain. Right, that's all ready. So now I'm going to cut the mesh. You got the scissors? Could you pass the scissors up, Chris? Right. What I might do is give... Yes, okay. Right. Well, it was overcast but clear.
Yeah.
30 seconds ago.
Why didn't rain?
Okay. It's been a couple of hours and the rain has stopped and we look like we've got a decent window. You can see though, there has been, I don't know if you can see that there has been some serious rainfall these last couple of hours. Hopefully everything's okay. Lovely. After a couple of hours of rain, we have still needed to soak this wall right down again. But the weather is looking much more pleasant now, so we've got a few hours, hopefully a 3-4 hour window to get a decent bit of done.
Okay.
So,
you turn it off now.
going to mix up. So we've almost got the gear mixed up. You can see we've got all the mesh cut. Well, we've cut, mostly cut, they'll need trimming. Put it aside. Put it down, put it on the side. Pardon?
Fix it up there.
Oh, excellent. I think that'll be perfect. No, I think that'll be just enough for this. And what we'll do, if we take that bucket to the next level below, we'll get another probably 5 below. There'll be 5 mixed up. Sorry, 5 mixed up. But yeah, so if we take the bucket below, I can pass it to you if you like, and then get 5 bags of lime ready to on that level. The handle. Top section is done. Sun has come out and we've had a lovely spell of weather, classic English. Welcome to another episode of Daniel Lee Plastering. We are back and today is looking good. Lovely lime. Let's have a quick. And we're going to get that top section top coated today. See Ethan carrying the spot board. Thank you for the recommendation. It's a little bit too cramped on the top one, but that middle, I reckon we've got room on that middle one. So we'll probably use the spot board there. Let's get mixing. Okay. The first thing we do is give the wall a good hose. Haha, here we are. Lovely. We'll be using them in a moment. So we like to give the wall a nice thorough soak. It's very porous, this lime render. Obviously, to do the job, it has to be able to breathe, and to breathe, it has to absorb. But that does mean, if you're not careful, the next coat can suck in very quickly. So I like to give it a nice soak, even though it was spitting a minute ago. Once I've done this, Heath, would you mind just taking this down and doing the bottom for me, please? The wall is soaked. Now we measure out the water. Always put the water in first. So this is 4 to 5 litres per bag. Split the difference. I do 4.5 litres of water per bag. then depending on the temperature can have an impact on how stiff or wet it seems. And then once we've mixed them up, we'll then gauge it. We are going to get 5 bags mixed up. Oh, that's Ethan's language for do we have the battery on charge? We do. Does that run out? Yeah. So it's a cordless DeWalt mixing drill. Fantastic. But it doesn't do that many mixes. In my experience, we'll be lucky to get 2 5-bag mixes per battery. We do have 2 batteries. If you were to mix a lot all day, I would recommend getting a 3rd, maybe even a 4th battery if you're doing 40 plus bags a day, but we tend not to do that many. So I will just bring them up a new battery because I can hear that it's slowing down. I know you mentioned about a spot board, people have mentioned about spot boards, which is like a table for your plaster to go on or for the render. However, it's very cosy up here and I personally prefer to have a bit more room. Heath? Should we switch it now? Should point out as well, these are 9 amp 18 volt battery as well. They're the biggest, I think they were at one point, the biggest batteries DeWalt did, the 9 amps 54 volt ones. We are about mixed up and ready to go. If I can give you that one.
So you got really wet when I was hosing.
Classic. Alright, set this. I'd go this way rather than the other way. I get sloppy now. Oh.
Full-time job now.
What's that?
Got my hawk underneath you.
What a team. Thanks. There we go. Wonderful. So you might notice that this render is a bit sloppy. You can mix it a bit thicker than this. This is about 4.5, close to 5 litres of water per mix, which I think on a day like today doesn't need to be quite that much. Mm-hmm. That's okay, we'll just wait. Chris will probably hopefully have some to roll off. We'll mix, actually we will. I'll take it down, we'll take it downstairs, mix up another 5, and then we might need to just bring a bucket or 2 up here to finish. It's like raining lime. Could you give a look at hand mixing another 5 bags on that level, please? Yeah. Alright, so there's still quite a few hollers where this gear was a bit wet. Not a problem. We'll get a rough guide with the rule, what Chris is doing now, and then we'll come back and fill all the hollers. That's a quick coffee. Not coffee, mushroom coffee. Oh, it's good stuff. It's much nicer to roll off when it stays a bit wet as opposed to not soaking the wall down and letting it tighten in, because this stuff will still tighten. Come. Right. Good job. Right, it's had about an hour and a half because it's quite a wet day today, damp, humid. Not that hot. So it is actually staying a little bit wetter than it might on other days. Let's give it a go with a power float. Not too bad, it's still a little bit wet. There's a few hollers there, pretty good though. So just want a hawkful or two of gear. No, I took it down and cleaned it. So I like to whiz over it with the power float. Once it starts getting a skin over it, which it has done, it's about an hour and a half today. It highlights all the hollers. There's a couple obvious ones. Things like this. That there, bit there. So all those little hollers that are dotted around will now get the get a bit of gear. We've still got some, obviously we saved some, we didn't use it, we didn't throw it all away. A bit in these bits. Let's get a hawk in a second. And then the hollers here. A bit.
Usually fluffs up a bit.
Yeah, well it has wet it up a touch as I've been going over it. The power float has, I mean.
Didn't you put some on there?
Yeah.
Oh.
So once this has all had a good float over with a power float, I like to use a small plastic float to go over it again that Chris has got there. Just gets all the detail work, the edges, double check anything you might have missed. This is looking really good now. She's just finishing off there, a few little bits here. And then the final stage, sponge. It wants to be a nice damp sponge. Depending on how the render is drying, depends on how wet you want the sponge, which is very helpful, I know.
Safety gloves at all times.
Yeah, lime corrodes the skin. Safety gloves at all times. Don't look at my hands. A little bit more exposed up here, so it's not drying quick because it's not a hot day, but it's a little bit quicker than the middle section. This just gives it a nice, consistent finish, nice even finish. It will then be painted. Very important to make sure you paint lime render with a breathable paint. otherwise that would defeat the whole purpose of the lime render in the first place, being breathable. You get specialist lime paints. There's a silicone paint that EWI do that they've told me is for lime render as well, which is good. You can actually get sponge floats, which are sponges on plastic floats. They work fine depending on how hard the wall is. I find with a sponge float you have to let it pull in a little bit more because they're a little bit rougher than a car sponge. By hand you can do a lot more finesse with a hand sponge. So this top section is now all finished. Beautifully finished lime render. It's the bottom half to finish. Chris is finishing off there and we've got a bit more down there to do, but this section here, looking great. Beautiful day. Hello, we are back for another episode of Daniel Lee Plastering and Rendering, and today we will be focusing on the damp course, below the damp course, which you can see here. So this area wants to be kept lovely and watertight. We've also got the mesh pre-cut because we are going to still bed mesh into it for strength. And you can see it goes around the entire property. And then, so this is the original damp. So the DPM on the extension was 1 level, and then on the original it was 2 bricks lower. I don't know if you can see there. So we have increased the entire damp course up, so it's all the same level running along all the way across there. And we will now be using a very strong waterproof render. On top of this, we've also primed this very thoroughly with universal primer to make sure the adhesion, the render sticks as best as possible. They're mixing up now. Let's crack on.
It used to be 5 donuts, so you're doing better.
Yeah, but bakery donuts. Whew. Right, so that's got the scratch on. You can see there.
Yeah.
Now we're going to get the top coat. So I've got the next coat on here, as you can see. It's been ruled off and troweled off. This will be having another waterproof mosaic, a black mosaic silicone render finish. So it doesn't need to be perfect. This will have a bit more of it will have a plastic float over the top of it. Smarten it up a bit. And not far off. Good morning, welcome to another episode of Daniel Lee Plastering and Rendering. And today we are in more lovely English rain, but we've done a temporary... So this is a very sheltered section. So we're quite lucky we've got this section. So we've put some temporary sheeting over there to It's moderate rain, so I'd say it's light at the minute with a few flurries, enough to soak the wall, but this is so sheltered, this should, as a very temporary measure, work. Just about to get the 5 bags mixed up straight away. And today we will be getting this section top coated. Only a short day today, so the weather isn't looking great. Let's crack on. But we're quite sheltered here. Thank you very much.
Sheltered.
Because of that.
Collie.
Yeah, a little.
This is now all on, which is good. It is sheltered and it is raining quite a bit. So I'm very, very pleased for this little temporary makeshift shelter. Might not look like much, but it does the job. Although because there's so much damp in the air, this is going to hang a bit. So we'll give this another hour and then float it up. How you feeling, Heath?
Cozy under here, actually. How dry are days, though?
Okay, it's going well. It's had about an hour. We've just power floated it. Chris is now just going over it with the plastic float. I'm going to start sponging it. Looking pretty good. There. We are almost done. Most of it has been sponged now. Just a few bits to finish off. Very nice. Welcome to another episode of Daniel Lee Plastering and Rendering, where we are back. You can see the beautiful wall behind me is now all finished. The weather's held up nice. And we are cracking on upstairs. Going well up there. Got that top section. We're going to be working our way down here, all the way through. Nice decent chunk today. Let's crack on. Okay, we're about to start another wall.
ones we've got.
That is a lovely bit of lime render there. Nicely round there. Great. And you can see there's the waterproof damp course. That will have a mosaic top coat. And then up here, see where the expansion joint is there for the rest of it, just in line with the window sills, which matches the houses, I believe, to the right there. Great stuff. Nice. And this has now had 2 coats of paint over the top. It's looking much good, much better.